sort of voicing their opinions, or have you really run across kids that really want to speak out and really talk about change?
No, that's an interesting question. This is another thing where I would say that right now it's talking about student voice, it's still a little in the theoretical part. Is that a lot of students that I come into contact with probably aren't really sure of good ways or good avenues that they would use to talk about change because students and myself included really want to make a difference, but I think that not everyone has the opportunity or the accessibility to say speak at a conference. And so giving students that avenue to really make change, I think, is one of the most important things.
And how do you think that would there be I've always thought there would be really cool if we could organize something as a venue for students to begin conversations around big projects or big ideas. I always feel like, the ideas that are out there, we'll take the environment for one example. It's so big, it's so complex, and yet kids really want to make a difference. Students really want to make a difference about the environment, but they almost don't have a platform place to do it unless their school or their community gives them an opportunity to do that. So I don't know if you've thought about that in any way, if kind of.
Yes, that's an interesting question. And something just occurred to me. Actually, one of the speeches that we show at TEDx, and as far as one of the TED videos, was Kiran Sethi, who was talking about making kids having power to make change. That would be a kind of a contagious feeling. And so she has a Design for Change project, which I think kind of does some of those things, getting kids to have a big idea and think about ways to implement it. So I think that we really do need to have that venue for kids to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean it's a big shift, and I'll talk about a book I'm reading later. It's my Geek of the Week share, but
Okay.
Drive by Daniel Pink, and for the most part, we haven't really given students the okay or the modeling that they can suddenly go out and make change. I mean, a lot of our system still is sit there and we will supply all of the fill in the blank for you, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
The learning. I'm gonna bring this. Um, I'll lecture to you. I'll bring all the tools, and students, have been taught for many years to take a passive role in schools, and that would be the perfect place to start. Saying it's up to you. What do you want to do? What do you want to get out of this? And I think showing my students, just even before they've seen the videos, Adora, with the speakers, and they found out what all of these students are working on, they were just absolutely blown away. And then I said, what are you interested in? And they started talking about concerns they had, and they found out each other had the same concerns. And I remember that was one salient quote at the end of the conference, and I don't know if you captured that on video or not, but remember that second, I think
Yes.
it was the second girl you talked to. Do you remember that quote? You
Yes,
might have
I
it
do.
better than I do because you spoke to her directly.
I'm never great at remembering things exactly, but what really stuck with me was the central theme of unity. I guess being able to finally see kids who, I think she said something along the line of being able to see kids who had the same thoughts or wanted to do the same things as she did. Yeah, and that really stuck with me as well, because I hope that was what really everyone took away, was that wanting to make change or wanting to have a difference, you're not alone. Because and after the event, actually, Bridget, one of the speakers who was talking about bullying, she wrote to me and she said, it was so great just hanging out with you guys and being able to have an intellectual discussion, because I talk about, lip gloss or about clothes at school, but it's so great to actually be able to have an intellectual discussion. And I think we really need to make that environment so that kids don't feel embarrassed about that kind of thing. That's one of the most important steps.
Well, the photo photos just came up. You had some students taking photos,
Yep.
and those just came out on Flickr. And that's been a piece that like my students haven't seen yet, and I think a lot of people haven't seen. But those are really great because you see the audience and you see the crowd of what would you have like 800 people there with adults and students. Is that
Yes.
about right? The number?
Mhm. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
actually much huger than we thought it would be.
Large. So it's so great to see that behind the scenes and see the excitement on these students. And there are some really amazing photos. I'll try to get that link in a minute. And just see engagement and the seriousness on some of the students' faces watching the speakers. And I think that is almost as powerful as the speeches themselves, to see that these students stayed the entire day. And what was it? It was like 7 hours.
Oh yeah,
so,
it was
right?
it was very long.
And they didn't leave. And I talked to a lot of them, and they were like, "No, I want more. This is great." And then I'd point out, this is longer than a normal school day. Do you feel that way about school? And then they would say, "No, I don't."
Yeah.
And they try to find a reason why. It was, you could say, "Oh, so okay." Adora just put in the Flickr into the chat. Great. So yeah, I mean they want it. Students definitely want this. I think you've proven that. You have a huge body of evidence that we may not have had before.
And I think one of the most important things to consider is that, or about TEDx Drive was that, kids go to school and we learn from adults, we sit down in the class, we hear, and it's definitely a good place to learn lots of valuable things, but being able to hear it from your peers and hear it from kids your own age or younger or older, and being able to then discuss it and sit next to fellow students who are there voluntarily, I mean, that's a really powerful feeling. You actually go to a conference, you listen to other kids, and you talk about those issues, and it's all because you want to. I mean, that was something that definitely really touched me, because I felt, okay, there might be some kids here because their parents made them come, but I think that the kids there, because their parents made them come, at the end of the day, they were really excited about this, to be part of that community.
Oh yeah, I mean it sounded like it, and from faces that you could see in the audience, there was just a rapture at what was happening. Adora, Peggy G is asking, were you disappointed that more students didn't want to share their reflections out loud in the session?
That's okay. So that's something I've spoken to a lot of students about reading and writing, and that's something that's perennially. I'm not sure if this is just with this age. Like when I work with younger students, everyone is just really eager about raising hands. I'm not sure if it's because it's in a large venue or just being shy. There is something with raising your hand, and I'm not sure if it's because it was kind of a formal environment. But I think that I've definitely seen good results when you just have people at a table and you ask them questions informally. I think you might be able to get more things. But I was actually impressed with the number of people who raised their hands, because I've seen 9th grade classrooms sometimes. I'm talking about reading and writing. I'm like, who wants to tell me what a narrative is? And not many hands up. So.
Yep. All right. Thanks. As long as we're talking about school, I would love to ask this question of you as a writer and an author and an educator. Why do you think it is that educators, and I'm thinking of, middle school, high school, still think that students should be reading only one book at a time in a class and only answering questions about that one book?
I'm not sure why this, because for me it's fairly obvious. We're in the 21st century. We do so much multitasking, and for me personally, I also love to read multiple books. I love to do a lot of things at a time, basically. And the problem is that for me, lessons, when they move in such a linear format, we do this today, we do this tomorrow, or the day after that we'll have a review, and the day after that we take a test on what we just learned. I understand that there's a certain amount of information that you have to get across, but when you have it in that straight line, then I think you end up, and kind of, Jason really talked about this actually, he was like, putting blinders on. When you have that straight line, then you kind of miss some of the stuff that might be at the side, and so I think it's important for teachers to, and this is obviously a lot on teachers' plates, but to be able to balance both the curriculum that needs to be taught and at the same time having that space for, I guess, new things and innovation, I think that's something that, takes a lot of hard work, but really pays off, yeah.
Well, thank you.
And can you talk a little bit about your teaching experience, where you do that and how that all started?
Sure. So it really started with my publishing my first book because, but at the same time, it started with my love of reading. From a very young age, my parents read to us, and for me, I don't ever remember not liking reading. I mean, it was just, it's a book, great. It's pretty much like a slice of chocolate cake. Well, okay, maybe not quite so sweet, but definitely it was very fun. I would sometimes rather read a book than go outside to play. And so it was definitely on that level. And then when I heard that there were some kids out there who did not like to read, and this shattering conclusion probably happened around when I was like 5 or 6, and I was like, wow, well that has to change. And one of the things I talk about in my TED Talk is actually sometimes kids and being naive at a young age, that can be helpful, because I thought, okay, I don't like this, I'm going to go out and change it. So I started talking to other kids at classrooms, in assemblies. Why do I like reading and writing? What are some of the things that I've written? And this is why you should like it too. And that it was a very basic approach, but I found that it worked fairly well. And now I've started, and I've been doing this for a while now, is using technology. So I do video conferencing, and I do traveling to schools as well as reaching them over a distance. And I found that lets me reach a lot of students at a time.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So you've been kind of doing this since you were first in school, right at 5 and 6, and talking to kids about reading. That's incredible. Now, speaking of going to places to talk, you have a big world tour coming up, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's funny. We never do this thing where it's like, oh, hey, Adora, you're gonna have a tour. It's more like, okay, somewhere in this place in Florida wants me, a place in Houston wants me, a place in Calgary wants me to come this weekend, so does Toronto, so why don't we just book it as a multi-city trip, since they're all close time. Yeah, my mom and I have become quite, I consider myself fairly good at booking travel now. I wrote a little blog post a while back about how, the internet helps me with all that, but, I think that a lot of it is, I've been really surprised at how many places just would really like to hear me speak, and now coming up, so after I do Florida, Texas, and Calgary, and Toronto, then I'm going to be heading to, well, we're coming home for Halloween, the ultimate, I'm very strict about, I'm not missing Halloween, and I'm not going trick-or-treating in Canada. I don't care if they have more awesome candy or whatever. But so then we're going to Nice, France, and also India. And Mexico. Oh, Mexico. What am I thinking? Okay, Mexico, then France, then India.
Wow. Yeah. Where will you be speaking in India?
Yeah, talk about that, because that's kind of connected to your Geek of the Week, isn't it?
It is, because, so India, I'm going there for 3 things, actually. The first one is the Young CEOs Conference, and that's going to be in New Delhi. And then we're going to, well, I think we're going to visit the Taj Mahal, actually, but then after that, then I'm going to a city called Laveza. It's fairly new. It was designed, I was reading up about it. It's like designed under the principles of new urbanism, and so it's supposed to be very well designed. It's on a hill, and so that's about 3 hours away from Mumbai, which I believe has is maybe the most populous city. I'm not completely sure about that, but so then it's from New Delhi, it's to the Taj Mahal, and then Mumbai, and then I'm going to be doing some work with the World Food Program. So I've been working with them to promote their website Free Rice, which is you answer educational questions and you get 10 grains of free rice for people in need, and it's as simple as that. I actually started a group, so that's kind of how everything ties together.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, that is so amazing. Now, you have your own free rice site, is that right?
It's a group, yeah. So basically, the way the groups work is that there's a ranking sheet, so it's kind of competitive. I think right now, there's a group that's like Finns or Poles, so either the Finnish or the Polish. Are definitely doing very well. I'm not sure if there's some kind of competition going on, because you'll see some really interesting groups. Let me just get it open. So, for instance, number one right now is Let's Help, and then the Finnish Free Ricers. I have no idea if there is a competition between atheists giving aid and Muslims fighting world hunger and Christians fighting world hunger, but I find it really hilarious how they're all up there. So yeah, you see these groups, and the most wonderful thing is that sometimes it's countries will or religions will be in conflict with each other, but this is one site where the kind of competition they're having is all toward the same goal, helping to end hunger. Yeah.
Wow.
Can you put your group in the chat room?
Sure. Let me.
My students would definitely be interested in going to that for the link.
Sure.
We usually just go to the generic site, but they would love that. That's incredible.
Let me.
So can anyone start their own free rice group, Adora?
Yes, and that's actually one of the great things. They just recently launched, I think, this new form of the website where you can have your groups, and it makes it a really wonderful tool for teachers, for schools, because, especially for classes. So, like, for instance, I know that a lot of schools have magazine drives, and this homeroom will compete against the other homeroom or whatever. Different classrooms will compete against each other. And so this is something that you could do really easily to raise rice as well, is, this classroom is competing with another one. I don't know, like math period 2 competing with math period 5, something like that. It might be kind of an interesting way to do it by setting up the groups.
That's great. We Cheryl and Alice, you were there too, right? At what's called MLTI, Main Learning Technology Integration. Did I just do that right? Yeah. But how many kids were there?
800. 800 or so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a yearly event where students come and present, and it's all based around our laptop initiative, one-to-one laptop initiative. And how many grains of rice did they make in 45 minutes? It's like 1 million, wasn't it?
Oh, it was pretty close to 1 million. I mean,
yeah.
But there was, and then they kept that site open for the month of June, I think, for the main students.
It's very cool. Adora, you are receiving a really incredible award. Can I talk a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Can I actually read from the letter? Is that okay?
Sure. I think so.
Because your mom sent me a copy. So this is from the NEA Foundation, and it says, "Hi, Adora. Each year, the NEA Foundation honors supporters of public education and educators from across the nation. We find your accomplishments very impressive and invite you to join us on February 11th to accept our highest honor, the NEA Foundation Award for Outstanding Service to Public Education in recognition of your dedication to teaching and learning worldwide." And it does say, normally the awardee is acknowledged for a lifelong commitment to public education, but you have done so much in such a short time that we feel you are worthy at this time. So,
wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
It's from the president and CEO, Harriet Sanford. So that is just absolutely amazing.
Go ahead.
History making right there.
I mean, I was completely blown away when I received it, because, as they said, it's a lifetime award, and this is something I might touch on when I accept it, because I have done quite a bit of work, but at the same time, I feel this award isn't going to be a completion of my work. I really want to keep on going ahead, because I haven't done enough. That's my belief, because until I'm really able to reach every student who I want to reach and get every student involved in sharing their voice, and then I think that my work won't be done. And so, I'm not taking this to say, okay, I can go and retire now. I'll just use it. as encouragement to keep on going forward, because my dad was a little bit like, isn't this a little bit like Barack Obama winning the Nobel Prize before he had
I was going to ask you.
done much? And I was like, yes, except I've been involved in education for really half of my life now. I'm 12 years old, and I've been doing things in education, visiting classrooms, talking to students, blogging, having an opinion for about 6 years. And so, other people who have gotten the award also, half their life, I've studied proportions, and so I think it's about, it's about where I should be. I really find it important that I continue to do work, and that I continue to reach new levels as a continuation of the award.
And again, I think it's evidence of what I'm hoping, that this is the year of the student's voice, that when the NEA gives that recognition to you, a student, that's a game changer for everybody. And, we are all going to benefit from that. And congratulations. I mean, that is really just amazing.
Oh yeah, I think so, because right now, as I said, we're really discussing student voice, and I hope that this will provide some of that impetus to really think, how can I implement this? How can I make this tangible? And I think it's really beginning to happen. I hope it is.
It's incredible. And you'll blog about that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Good. Okay. Alice, Cheryl, I've been dominating again. I thought I'd give you a chance here. Or Lily and Midnight. That's the dog's. Adora, that's the dog's names.
They've been banished to the other room for the moment.
Well, Adora, I'm hoping that, when you had a chance to get together with some other youth, that you had an opportunity, after talking about the lip gloss and the shoes and the boots and everything, that, if there was just one thing we could do for today's youth, it would be, fill in the blank.
If there was...
I'd love to have been a fly on the wall for a conversation like that.
That's a very good question. And if there was one thing that we could do for today's youth, there's so many things really, but one of the most important to me, one of the most crucial, and something that I've talked about, is to listen. Because when it comes down to it, then we really live in what tends to be an adult-centric world. We go to class, we listen to the teacher, the authority figures are all adults, and I think that so often in a position of authority, then and Barack Obama said that being in the White House, it was kind of like being in a bubble, being rather insular. And I think that adults can sometimes get kind of insular in authority positions. And to be able to come out of the bubble, to be able to listen to everyone, not just people your own age, but also those older and younger than you, that's really a skill that not only helps you and helps us, but I think has the potential to help the world. Because our ideas, when adults say, kids, they don't have all their brain cells quite yet. They need to grow up in order to make fully informed decisions. And I find that to be actually more of an argument on my side, because we haven't experienced all that adults have, because we haven't seen as much necessarily over our lifetimes. That gives us a more fresh perspective. Sometimes it can give us different ideas. And so listening to us and having a reciprocal relationship where we don't just learn from adults, but adults learn from us, I think that's one of the most important things that we can do.
Thanks.
Do you think, with some of the experiences that you've had, and somebody just said in the chat room, a young lady who is wise beyond her years, do you think that sometimes adults project almost an adultism on you because you are breaking out of what's normally happening or expected? Do you run into that? Where it's almost like, well, all right, this is an exception to what children really are, or students are really are. Do you run into that, Adora?
I do run into that, and a lot of people are saying, well, shouldn't you just let kids be kids? And that was the topic of one of my speeches in Canada. But what I would say is, more often I feel a childish kind of, or people expect me to be seemingly I don't know, less mature, or I guess I would find that people project more of a kidism on me. And that's kind of something that I really don't appreciate, to say the least, considering I gave a 20-minute speech about it. And someone actually wrote to me, which I thought was very sweet, and said that their daughter had talked to a reporter, and the reporter had just tried to make her be kind of sounding like more of a kid, and that had really hurt her. And then she watched Let Kids Be Kids, my speech, about why adults should really let us be everything that we can be, and not project this kind of idealized vision of this is what a child should look like on us. Because one of the most important things that adults can do is, let kids be kids. Let us be everything that we can be, and that might mean being more mature than they seemingly think. Okay, this is how a kid should reach, but maturity shouldn't be really measured on a benchmark of age. It's just, you know how to behave in this kind of situation. You don't. I think it should be independent of age.
And the other way too,
Yeah.
I think, I'm reading Drive again, and I'm listening to the book about the book flow, and adults finding that play, which I think we certainly have in this century, with all the toys that we have, but that's a really important part all the way through your life. And I think when people see, what was so great about TEDx Redmond is, you really saw students up there, and you saw the maturity of them, and well spoken, and everybody's blown away. But people really could say, these are our students. This is what students are thinking about, and definitely, everybody was still being a kid too, and I'd say that about myself as well. I still, act like a kid at times.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most awesome things about TEDx Redmond. When I look back on it, I think it would have made a very awesome side-by-side picture. Was I'm up there and I'm speaking and I feel very dignified, but I don't let that make me feel staggered, because the next moment we're eating dinner and I'm chasing Noah Andrew around the room, shrieking loudly. And I mean, when I look back at it in those two images in my head, I'm up there and I have a very grave look on my face, and then I'm chasing him around the room, and it's like, those two can coexist. It's not I'm all dignified, I'm going to speak like this, I'm going to use correct manners all the time. It's not all one or the other. I mean, I can appreciate, I don't know, cheese and books. That was a bad example, but I guess what I'm saying, high culture, and the next moment I can watch Zoe's favorite YouTube video sitting on the toilet, because I just had to mention that. Yeah. So.
But can't you just see Obama too? He just breaks out on the basketball court.
Mhm. Yep.
That's the way it should be, Adora.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know what? I think I could be wrong, but I think adults allow the crossing over, I guess, for adults more than they do for for kids or students. In other words, well, I'm an adult, but hey, I can let my hair down.
Yep.
And be the kid at heart. But maybe it's not seen in both ways, like having a say at the table. The thing, the day after hearing all these amazing talks, and Alec talking about the environment, and Bridget talking about bullying, and all these things, I was really thinking, here's a generation that we have really handed quite an enormous economic debt to, and left the world in probably the worst shape it's been in for a long, long time. We need to let these folks that are going to have to solve these problems be part of the conversation now, and it's clear that many kids want to.
Yes, definitely. And school, to bring this back to education, school is preparation for real life, and in real life we have to deal with problems that are huge. I mean, each generation has its problems, but I would say definitely that we have some pretty nasty ones to deal with. And so in education, I think it's important not to sugarcoat the problems that are out there, or again make it too insular, because as Zoe talked about, having an impact beyond the four gray walls of the classroom, having an impact, having footprints, having purpose is increasingly important in a world where we have so many different issues to deal with.
And I mean, you could wrap the entire curriculum around, well, real life. You know, is that for the dogs?
I think it is. They're in here. They're ready. This happens, doesn't it? Sorry.
That's all right. Adora, would you and if you don't want to do this, this is fine. But would you read some of your writing to us?
Sure, I would love to. Was it a Gossamer Inch that you were saying would be a good...
Oh my gosh, I was so taken by that. You know, even if you just want to read a little bit, this is
Sure.
this is from your blog. You just posted a short story that you wrote, or anything that you'd like to read. I'd love to hear it.
Oh, that one's actually probably one of my favorite short stories from recently.
Right.
Let me just get it up.
Okay.
Sorry, it's taking me a bit of a
Oh, that's okay.
computer's speed.
And,
Gives us time to get our Geek of the Week online.
Right.
Adora.
And all the links will be in the show notes, of course, folks. Adora's blog and TEDx Redmond, etc.
Yes, and this is a live webcast right now, but by the weekend it will be turned into a podcast.
By tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning.
Okay,
Notes and links and quick commentary.
I just got it. Yep.
Okay, great.
Here it is. She moved her head an inch, a gossamer inch, ever so slightly off the pillow, until her dry, cracked lips touched the dry, starched linen of the bedsheet. A matted wisp of hair, gray and oily in its disuse, fell in front of her eyes. She had not the energy to brush it away from her face, but let it stay there, tickling, taunting, slowly. Her leg, thin and varicose-veined, dangled over the edge of the bed. The now faded red bedsheet twisted round it like a barber's pole, red and white, faded dusty color on faded dusty skin. The minutes ticked by, unforgiving soldiers marching on, blindly. Whose orders did they follow, she thought angrily. She remembered when her legs had been white and not transparent. She remembered when the bedsheet's red was not faded but proud in its garish glory. She remembered all this from a time before, but minutes, days, years were unceasing soldiers. It had been folly to think that she could fight against them, she when no others could, not the belles she'd envied whose rich locks of brown and gold had turned to white and gray, not those spry gentlemen she danced with, dancing. What a word. It was like honeyed water dripping slowly, tortuously, before a parched traveler, out of reach, far away, and when you reached for it, gone. Thanks.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh.
And folks, definitely finish reading. I just put the link in the chat room. It's an incredible story. It's really very amazing.
Nice bedtime story.
Oh. It might get me a little scared to tell you the truth to read. Then,
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's bedtime, but it's amazing. Well, gosh, the time is flying, and I think it's about time for Geek of the Week. Or do you guys concur, or should we keep going, or?
We could keep going, but in the interest of time, let's get all the Geek of the Weeks out.
Yeah, let's do that.
The girls are here ready, so.
All right.
They're not barking.
Well, Adora, we always have our guest going first with your favorite links of the week.
oh, that's very sweet. Good manners. Something I always forget to do. Okay. As far as guests going first, but yes. So my Geek of the Week link is freerice.com. So I talked about it a little bit. It's the World Food Program's really innovative website to try to end hunger, one question, 10 grains at a time. The way it works is you choose your favorite subject. I like English vocabulary and French myself. Those are two I'm actually decent at, as opposed to chemistry symbols. But I guess and that's the nice thing, is that there's a lot of subjects for all kinds of different skills. And so you do it, and it's adaptive. It gets harder if you're really good, and it stays the same level if you need some more of that level. And 10 grains of rice for every answer you get right. And so it's a great way to get your brain power going and also give you good karma. So you can, as well as bragging rights, if you'll see your group, if you're part of a group, in the ranks listing. And so yeah, very motivational and a great way to help.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Alice? Yeah, Alice.
I feel like I've done this one before, so I hope it's okay. But
It didn't come up in our tags, so.
yeah, I didn't find it, so I'm hoping I.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Okay, so maybe anyway. I am putting, with all the talk about cyber safety and